So we were at the CMOS logic, and so we started with the how to design the CMOS complex CMOS logic gates, and there we have seen when a series connection is there, it will be AND operation. When a parallel is there, OR operation. And based on that, the basic gates we have seen how to design the basic gates. And your pull down network will consist of NMOS, and pull up network will be consisting of your PMOS. And whatever the output will be generated, it will be in the form of complement. So in order to get the actual output, again you have to do the inversion, means addition of inverter at the output. So fine. So we were at this problem. So we solved this problem. Now, since these are your switching logics, we are considering it as a switching logic, like a switch. So we can draw a switch delay model. What happens when we do switch on and off? There is a fraction of second spent when we do the transition of 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. So how that fraction of second, on what it is depends upon, because it will determine the speed of the circuit. So let's check. This is an example. So this is an example of which type of gate. So if we see this F is equals to A and B, both are in series. So A dot B, and since it is a CMOS logic, so complement will come. So this is nothing but your NAND logic. Now if I want to draw the switch delay model means in order to predict what will be the amount of delay offered by that particular switching. So what it will be? So for your information, when you operate in the digital mode, they operate in the linear mode. For example, let's see here. For example, if we take the case of B1, so let's say this is INT. So what is VGS2 for this one? This is your VGS2, because M2 is here, and here it is VGS1. So what is VGS2? So VGS2 is nothing but VG minus VS. So what is VG? VG is VA, that is VG minus VS. And what is VS? VS is nothing but plus minus VDS1. Fine. So, and what is VGS1? VGS1 is nothing but voltage VB. Let's say it is VA and this is VB. So from here, what we can deduce, if you see this one, this expression. So what is VDS1? Or if you want to check this VDS1 with respect to VGS1. So here, if I do analysis, what I see here, it is VDS1, and here it is VGS1 minus VTH. Now this VGS1 is nothing but your VB voltage, the voltage we have applied, and this VDS voltage will be the fraction of the output. So this is the full swing voltage which we are applying. This is nothing but your VDD. So this is VDD minus VTH, and this is a fraction of VDD. So definitely it will be less. So what we get from here, that this will operate in the linear region. So your distance generally it operates in the MOSFET will operate in the linear region. And once I know it is operating into the linear region, this means it will behave like an ohmic region. Ohmic region is a resistive element will be there, because it is in the ohmic or triode region. So when we draw the switch delay model, we'll replace this transistors by the resistances, that let's say RP is the resistance seen by the PMOS, and RN is the resistance seen by the NMOS. Okay. And what are the capacitances associated? Because the delay will be a part of resistance and a capacitance. So capacitance, the parasitic capacitance. So one capacitance will be formed at this node. So this node capacitance will be with respect to M2 and with respect to M3 and M4. So let's say effective capacitance is your, this is your effective capacitance at the output, that is known as your CL. CL means load capacitance. But at the same time, since this and this, the upper transistor is connected to the power rail, so whatever capacitance will come, that will come into the what that will come into the your parallel connection, right? So we can add those capacitance. But when we go for the capacitance at this intermediate node in a series, so definitely here also some capacitance will come. So that is represented by CINT. Fine. So this is the switch delay model of the what your, this is your NAND gate. Okay. So in this, what happens whenever logic A and B both are 1? So what will happen when both A and B will be 1? This switch and this switch will connect together, and whatever the stored charge at CL will be there, that will be getting passed through this RN to RN, and then it will discharge. Okay, and when both are zeros, so what will happen? This will get switch off, and this two will get connected, and whatever supply will be there, that will travel through RP, and it will get charged up to CL value. Okay, so this is the operation. Now what are the observations? If you see in the M2 transistor, here the source and bulk both can be connected at the same potential. Here this is the bulk which is grounded, and this is the bulk which is grounded. So here no threshold voltage effect, but in M2 there will be the threshold voltage effect, and which will vary according to the this relation, that is this is nothing but VSB voltage. So what is VS? Is VNT minus VB. VB is nothing but equal to 0. So VNT will come here. This means if we go for the precise operation, if my logic level is, if my input, or we can say if my switching level 0 and 1 is, this one is nearly equal to VTH. Let's say VTN. 1 means nothing but VTN and 0 means ground. And if we are switching, and though this M2 is suffering from this threshold voltage effect, so maybe the case is if we apply VA equals to VTN voltage, this transistor may not turn on, because effective VT will be higher compared to VT naught. So that may be the case. So that is the one problem with the series connection if we do, because a body effect can come. See, in that case what we have to do, the one solution is you do not connect that body to ground, or connect this body directly to the source, so that this VSB effect comes to 0. Okay, this is the first observation. Now second, if you see the charging and discharging. So if I see the discharging, so discharging, this CL value is discharged through this RN and this RN. This means the discharging path is 2 RN because they are in series, and here CL is there. So your total discharging time is 2 RN, and whatever the effective capacitance comes here. And whenever we see the charging time is, if both A and B both are 1, so it will charge either through this or through this. So effective charging will be RP divided by 2, and it will charge the CL here. So if you see, there is different discharging and there is different charging time. Okay, so if I consider that mobility of P and mobility of N is same, then I will get a different charging path and different discharging path, means different charging delay and different discharging delay, because of the effective resistances. So that's why what happens, we know that mobility of N type is double the mobility of P type, just an approximation, it has done 2 or 2.5 times multiple. So we take accordingly, the R is calculated, and the dimensions are forced here, because dimension means W by L is changed. And why? Because R is proportional to 1 by W by L. So by changing the dimension, we try to emphasize or try to make the circuit such that the charging and discharging both takes the equal time, in order to make the symmetry. Now this is the delay model. So here if you see, okay, charging and discharging both are made same, but if you see the transfer characteristic means output versus input. Okay, so initially if both are 1, what will happen, it will charge to some voltage, let's say VDD, and if both are 0, it will charge to VDD, and if both are 1, it will charge to ground. So these two levels are there. And when you will see the VTC curve, when you will see the DC characteristic, what you will see, the slope comes like this. Okay, then this is the VTC characteristic. Now in this VTC characteristics, when both an A and B are equal, so what happens, A and B both are equal, so what happens, a strong path of 0 will create, and here if both are 1, a strong path of 1 will be there. So when both A and B both are same, we will get a curve of like this symmetric curve. But when we are doing switching from like A is 1 and B is 0, so what is happening when A is 1, when A is 1, this is 1, B is 0, so what will happen, this is off and this is on. Once this is on, so what should be my output, though I have not got the part to the ground, this means complete discharge will not be there. This means no discharge should be there. Ideally, it should result in value of what it should, A is 1 and B is 0. So what it should result in, there is no path to ground, but there is a path from the supply to the output. This means my charge should retain at the capacitance and logic 1 should come in the output. But what happens, since here it is also a internal capacitance form here, so there might be some charge moving in this direction. So that can degrade or switch or deviate my characteristics. So that's why a deviation is seen from the 1 1 case to the 0 1 1 0 case. Now when B is 1 and A is 0, then what happens? Again the same thing. When B is 1, A is 0, so this is off, no threshold voltage effect is there, and there is no path from F to the B drain. So ideally there is no change in the curve with respect to earlier. So a close, approximately a close same type of curve will be seen here. So what does this reveal? This reveal that it combination, this though this is a combinational, you can say, circuit, like what we give input output is there, but it will also depend on what have and what is the previous condition. Okay, like A and B both are 1, this is the characteristic, and suddenly you switch the B from 0 to 1, then a deviation will, you will see in the characteristic. And after this you go to this characteristic, then a closed same type of graph you will see here. So all these things are changing. Why? Because we know when we put double one, when A and B both are 1, your RP, or you can say your charging, is given by Rp by 2. It is a function. And when we go discharging, we get 2Rn. Rather than if we go for single on, any one transistor on or any one transistor off, we get value of Rp or Rn. So there is different charging and discharging time. Okay. So that's why there will be always deviation in the curve, and it will depend upon the input pattern. So this is also a switch delay model shown for a transistor. If transistor is there, I can replace by this one. And this is a NAND circuit, inverter circuit. This is a NOR circuit. Now if you see in NAND, internal capacitance is formed here, but in case of NOR, it will be in the pull-up network. Okay, why? Because a series connection is formed in the pull-up network, whereas for the lower pull-down network, all the capacitance will get a are connected to the ground rail. So effectively all are in parallel combination. So directly we can add and we can predict what is CL, the effective capacitance. Now this is a compound gate. So like question comes, what is the what is the logic implemented by this function? It's the same way you read the pull down network. So let's say if I read this pull down network, what is this is? This is AB and this is C in multiplied by A plus B. So what happened? Effectively at the output what I will get, both are in the plus form. So C naught bar is nothing but this value, and this will be given in the complement form. So further this value is propagated to an inverter. We get here the complement C naught complement that will give me AB plus C in into A plus C in into B. So if you recall, this is a carry expression of full adder, and then you will solve this one, so you will get a sum operation here. So this is nothing but the full adder implementation at the MOS level or the CMOS level. So coming to the properties, it has rail to rail swing. Rail to rail means from 0 to VDD, the full swing is there. So it has high noise margin. Noise margin we'll cover in the coming lecture. Then logic levels are not dependent upon relative device sizes. Okay, there is always a path to VDD or to ground in steady state. Steady state means either one state, either 0 or 1. Okay, it does not include the switching case. So always there will be either from the VDD, and let's say it is CL here and this is ground here. So either path can be from this or a path from this. Okay, these two cannot occur simultaneously. So there is always a path either to VDD or to ground in the steady state, due to which there is a low output impedance. Then there is a high input resistance. High input resistance, why? Because we are giving input to the gate, and this gate here Ig is 0. So when Ig is 0, what is R? R is nothing but 1 by Ig. So almost it is infinite, very high input resistance. So because of nearly 0 steady state input current. Also, there is no direct path in the steady state between power and ground, so no static power dissipation. Now, when the power dissipation occurs, when P is equals to V into I, fine. So, from supply to ground, we will not get a direct path in either of the case. When either one will be on, then other will be off. If pull down is on, then pull up will be off. So, there is no direct path, so there is no direct power dissipation of the circuit. So very less power dissipation, and that power dissipation is due to the switching only, not due to the static condition, static rest condition. And though there will be a propagation delay, and it will be the function of load capacitance and the resistance seen by the transistor configurations. Okay, so now coming to the pass transistors, we will not cover now. Coming these 2-3 slides, we are just introduced, because these things will broadly cover in your unit 3. So just for your information, a counterpart like a CMOS logic, there was NMOS and PMOS, and if we rely using only single transistor, either PMOS or NMOS, then that type of configuration are known as pass transistors. So the definition is, when an NMOS or PMOS is used alone as a switch, then we call it as a pass transistor. Like if we take NMOS, so NMOS means when it will be on, when gate is 1, then the whatever the charge is there, that will get transferred. So when gate is 1, the charge is transferred, and PMOS, when gate is 0, the charge is transferred. So, and coming to the logic levels, we know NMOS is a NMOS will pass strong 0, and PMOS will pass strong 1. Others will be a degraded form, or you can say here weak 1 and weak 0. Okay, so this is also an approach to design the logical circuits. Second form is your transmission gate. Transmission gate is what is happening now. We know in past transistors, it is providing a weak 1 and weak 0. So whether there is any way other than CMOS to get this degraded logic as a full swing, so we can go for the transmission gate. So what happens in this, both NMOS and PMOS are connected in parallel, and we call it as a transmission gate or a pass gate. So when we use two transistors, and that too in the parallel combination, not the CMOS architecture, it is not a CMOS, but a parallel connection of NMOS and PMOS is there, then that type of configuration is called your transmission gate. But in this case, what happens, the control inputs and its complement both are required by the transmission gate. Like if I take this is your NMOS, and if I take this is your PMOS. So if I attach both of them, drain and source part, I will sort. So this will be my input and this will be my output. But the control input, what a control means my gate input, will require complement and original input. Let's say if input is here C, control is here CNTRL. If this is control, what should be the input here? Input here should be CNTRL bar. Okay. So what will happen when CNTRL is equals to 0? So what will happen when it is 0? This NMOS is off, and since it is 1, again this is off. So no means what here? No output will come here, because the switch is off. When control is 1, what happens? This will change to on condition, and this will also change to on condition. Then output will come, and that will be equals to the input. Okay, now if it is logic 0 or if it is logic 1, so if it is logic 0, then NMOS is there to pass the logic, so we will get here a strong value. If logic 1 is there, then PMOS is present to pass the logic, we get here a strong 1. This means if a pass transistor is getting a problem, then I can go for the transmission gate approach, and in transmission gate approach I can get the strong logics in either 0 or 1 case. But yet then the question comes, when transmission gate is there, then why we are studying CMOS? So can anybody comment here? When the option is there is using C transmission, then why we will go for CMOS? Okay, so what is happening in CMOS? If you recall your CMOS architecture, this was your VDD and this was your ground, and here was the, let's say, inverter we draw. Some comment. So extra control unit. Yeah, extra control is there. Other than that, Pranav, anything else you can comment? Okay, let me comment. So what happens in CMOS logic? If you recall, we have VDD. We are having VDD. Then here logic circuit is there, and then we are having ground, and here is the output. So if I give input here, let's say if I am giving here 4.8 volt input and 5 volt is the output, 5 volt is the supply. So if I am giving 4.8 volt as the input, so output will be 0 if it is a case of inverter, and or suppose we are getting here 0 point, let me draw again. So if we are designing here inverter, okay, and here is the output. So if I give mere input is equals to 0.2 volt, okay, and my VTH is here 0.8 volt, okay, for example. So what will happen when my input is low? Then VTH, this transistor will not turn on. Fine. So sorry, this transistor will be turned on, this will be off condition. So I will get my VDD supply at the output, means complete VDD, complete power supply is coming at the output, irrespective of the magnitude of the signal. But in the transmission gate, my output, let's say example in this one, B is nothing but A. This means if my input B is 0.2 volt, then my output is coming here 0.2 only. Output will be 0.2. If it is 4.8 volt, I will get 4.8 volt. This means in transmission gate or in the pass gate, my output magnitude will be the function of input magnitude. But in the CMOS logic, the output is depending upon the supply rail magnitude, and input magnitude should be such that it should turn on the transistors. So that is the advantage with the CMOS. But in the transmission of pass gate, there can be chances that we can get the degraded output. Okay. So that's why we always try to prefer CMOS logics. Then the question comes, then if we, everywhere CMOS is dominating, why we are studying this pass and transmission? So this pass and transmission actually saves the chip area. What happens if we go for always for CMOS, there will be always whatever the network we will realize using in the pull down network, that will get multiplied by 2. This number of transistors will be also always get doubled whatever there in the pull down network is there. So in order to reduce the number of transmission gates, we go for these alternate logic levels. Okay, alternate logic design styles. Now coming to the application part, if you see, let's say a multiplexer is to be designed. So we know the multiplexer, it is the 2:1 multiplexer, and the multiplexer, this S is the selection line. So how it will work? So how it will work? One minute. How it will work? We know the truth table of multiplexer, that is when selection line is 0, it will select the D0, and if selection line is 1, it will select D1, whatever is present. So this is the truth table. If selection line is 0, it will always select D naught here, and if selection line is 1, it will always select D1. Fine. So this is the Boolean expression for this one. Now coming to the realization, how we can realize, like this way we can realize the multiplexer. So what happened when S is 0? So when S is 0, this PMOS is on and this is off, this is off, and this is S is 0, PMOS is on, 0 means 1, okay, sorry, this will be on, this is off and this is off. So what happened, Y will get D naught, and if it is logic 0 or logic 1, both will come as a strong value because we are having both configurations here. And if suppose when selection line is 1, if it changes to 1, then this transistor off, and this will change to on condition, and again we will get here D1 value. So this is just a very simple realization of using multiplexer using transmission gate. But if you go for the CMOS logic, then again that will create how many number of transistors that you can compute. Okay, so definitely if we go for the pull down network design, so how much transistors it will be there? So let's go, if we go for CMOS, so it will be Y complement, and it will be S bar into D naught, and here will be S into D1. So this will be the pull down network, and the dual will come as the pull up network. Okay. So here also number of transistors is coming same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 6. Okay. So these are the logic styles which we can use. Now comes a very important logic element, that is called your buffer. Now you know what is buffer? Buffer means whatever is there in the input, it will transfer to the output. It works like a window. So this means if you, let's say if this is an IC and we have designed the logic circuits, means some logic circuitries are there, then you must know there are pins here. First of all, there is some, these are called your IO pad, input output pads. Now this input output pad, if I directly connect to my external circuit, let's I am drawing some voltage divider network. So I have connected here resistance R1, R2, then ground, whatever is there, and I am taking output from here. So what happen if I directly connect the logic circuitry output direct to the external world with the passive elements? So maybe due to high current, this internal circuitry can get damaged. So when that internal circuitry is getting damaged or high current is flowing into the IC, so my IC can get burned off, or it will be of no use for the future. So in order to protect these things, what is done from the this IO pads, we use buffers. Okay. So what will it will do? Now buffer is like this direction, it is flowing, current is flowing. So if this is the network R1 and R2, and suppose high current is also there, so it, this back propagation of current cannot be going due to external work, due to external supply. This back propagation of current cannot be possible. So this way I can protect my IC. So buffer had a lot of application when we go for the IC fabrication. Now how we can realize these buffers? So here buffer you can also call as a voltage buffer, because we are transforming whatever the voltage generated at the IO pad, that we are transmitting to the output, or that is being taken into consideration. So we call it as a voltage buffer also. So now this tri-state buffer means, generally if we see buffer, it will have input and output. Only two levels are there, input and output. This means we have either logic 0 or 1. But in a tri-state buffer, we have a third logic level, that is called a Z. Z is called your high impedance. Okay, the third state is called your high impedance, which is denoted by Z. And if you will look at the symbol, this is the symbol of tri-state buffer. Means input A, output is Y, and enable is your control input. This you can think of a control input. So when control is high, then only A will be transferred to the output, or there can be a in means low enabled operated buffer also. When enable 0, then only the input will transfer to the output. Okay, so what is happening here, like this is the example. Here if you see how to design the buffer. Buffer means if I give input, if I interchange this PMOS and NMOS, the inverter was your, this is PMOS and this is your NMOS. Okay, this was your inverter. So what I did here, this PMOS is placed here and this NMOS is placed, their positions are interchanged. So what will happen, if A is there, this transistor will be on and I will be getting here weak 1. If transistor A is 0, I will be getting here weak 0. So though it is operating as a buffer, but at the same time the logic levels are not strong. We are getting a weak logic level. This means a simple this way design of buffer will not work. So we go for the tri-state based buffer design. Okay. So and your truth table will be whenever enable 0 and 1 is there, it depending upon the type of input, the output will be transferred. Like for example, when enable is 0, it will not work. So whatever will be the input, no output will be there. Always a high impedance will come here. When enable is 1, then only this will work and whatever output will be transferred here, and these two will be in the strong levels, strong logic levels. So at the CMOS level, the architecture you will look at this one. So this is an example of a tri-state inverter. So if you see, if enable is 0, so if enable is 0, what happens? This is off and this is off. So when these two are off, Y is having no connection to the supply or to the ground. There is no path from supply or ground to the Y terminal. So this Y will, what Y will take? It will neither take 0, neither it will take 1, rather it will remain in the floating state. So whenever any wire is in the floating state, it can assume any voltage, any value. So we say it is in a high impedance state. Okay. But what happened when enable is 1? So when enable is 1, so this transistor will be in on condition. This transistor is in change to on condition. This also will change to on condition. And when these two are on, then based on the type of input, whether it is 0 or 1, the output will be generated just like an inverter. So the performance is same like an inverter. The only difference with the normal inverter and with the tri-state inverter is the master control of input. Okay. Now the question comes, when from the CMOS inverter directly we get the full swing, why we are going to use tri-state inverter? Because tri-state inverter is demanding two extra transistors. So whether any advantage is there of using this tri-state inverter? Unnecessarily we are using two transistors. Okay. So what should be the possible reasons? Okay. So what is the application part if you ask, then the basic, let's say, okay, let's say it is a microprocessor unit and this is a RAM. Okay, now the microprocessor wants to send the data to the RAM. So in between a buffer is used, a simple buffer is used. Okay, so when a simple buffer is used, let's say it is a data bus. 1 minute, let me draw again. This is a microprocessor unit and this is your RAM. Okay, and this is your bus, a data bus. What is data bus? If you don't know, data bus is actually you can say a route is there which intermediate route is there which takes some data and wait for and it distribute among the various blocks. Let's say RAM 1 is there, RAM 2 is there, then ROM is there, then ALU is there. So whatever microprocessor has to operate, it will give all the data to the bus and then from bus it will be transferred to the, okay, let me use here buffer. Okay. Okay. So these all are buffers and it is giving data to the RAM. Okay, you do this thing. Now when the RAM computes, it also gives data back to the microprocessor, okay, it has been done, it will acknowledge. So again one buffer will be used and it will go to the back to the microprocessor. So this way it continues. So what happen if normal buffer is there? So suppose microprocessor is operating, some data has been given, it came to the ROM. At the same time, this ROM is saying that my job is finished, take by the instruction. So it is giving back the data and it is coming to the microprocessor through the same bus. So what happened here? Clashing of data occurs. Okay. At the same time, maybe the data clashing can occur, and due to this data clashing, maybe there a high voltage, a high current can create damage this path. Okay, so what happens, in order to control, I will provide here control to all the buffers. Okay, and this control option is adjusted such a way that when this way communication is happening to the bus, at the same time I don't want any of this block to communicate here, so that time this control inputs will be disabled, so these functions will not operate. It will wait, once this job is finished, then it will switch to RAM 2. Okay, so this way for these things control operations we go for the tri-state logics, because in tri-state logic we get a master control input. Okay, so this was from your unit 1. Fine, till here any questions is there? Then we'll go for some few slides for unit 2 also. No questions?
So
Okay,
what will be
fine.
the syllabus of quiz one?
That syllabus we'll discuss that at 9:50. Okay. Anything else from the lecture side? No. Okay. Now, if you see in your unit 1, we have seen whatever the CMOS logics we are designing, whatever CMOS, everywhere it is having a pair of any variable will have a pair of PMOS and NMOS, PMOS and NMOS. And these all are nothing but a inverters. These all are nothing but resembling a inverter. This means if I characterize an inverter, then I can characterize the complete block also. Because suppose if you are building any house, and if we go for a brick buy, if we go to buy a brick, so what we do? We do not analyze the complete set of bricks. We take a single brick and we see the quality of brick, and then we say, okay, this brick is of good quality. We can use, and whatever wall will be constructed, that I can analyze and I can tell that what should be the life of this house, because I have perfectly analyzed that single brick, and the complete house is made of that type of brick only. It's just nothing but like a copy pasting of the bricks. So here also the same thing, the CMOS logic, the inner core, the lowest level of the CMOS logic is a inverter. So if we are have a clear concept of inverter, like how does it behave with the input pattern, how the delays are computed, how where we can save the amount of time, how we can improve the logic, where we can save the power, if all things are analyzed for a single inverter, that theorem I can apply to the complete logic circuitry. So that's why study of inverter is very important, for which complete unit 2 is devoted. Fine. So, and apart from that, we have seen the any switching inverter. Okay. Um, so, so shall we go? Okay, okay. Let's go for a few topics. So in your CMOS inverter, we generally first we will be seeing the logic levels. Logic levels means zeros and ones. In zeros and ones, we get a weak zero and weak ones, as all of you know. Then we'll go for the noise margin. Noise margin is the case like if we are transferring 0 and 1. So what happens when we transfer due to noise, what happens, this 0 can come to 0.2 volt, and this one can be degraded to 0. Let's say 8 volt, or it can be boost up or boost down. Generally it boosts down, due to noise it can degrade to 0.8. So what is happening further, if I propagate 0.8, this can go to 0.4, this can go to 0.6, further I propagate, so one time it will come that it will go to 0.2. So what is happening, due to noise these logic levels are degrading. This due to here noise, the wire noise or the transmission medium, like in air we are transmitting 0 and 1. So due to this, then due to the presence of noise, due to the interference of airs, what happens? The logic level can be disturbed. So this means we need to have a some no margin that to what level I will consider logic 1. Suppose I am transmitting 1 and the receiver is getting 0.8, then receiver will ask whether 0.8 is considered to be 1 or not. Tell me. Then the transmitter will say, okay, you consider it is because of noise. Then further you say, okay, 0.8 is there. Further this propagation goes to 0.6. Then again the problem comes whether this 0.6 will be computed as 1 or not. So this means a valid range of logic 1, a valid range of logic 0 must be defined for any circuit. So that comes under the analysis of noise margin. That how much noise a logic can tolerate. How much noise, how much fluctuation can a logic can tolerate. Like when you are doing the experiments of digital in your first year, you must have seen that accurate 5 volt is not coming, it is coming 4.8 volt or something something. Then it was due to some noise or loose connection. So that are nothing but a modulation of the magnitude of the voltages. So but it is not in the user hand that okay, according to my convenience I will say okay, this is logic 1, no no, this is logic 0. There must be some uniformity among all the students. So we say consider up to 4.5 volt to 5 volt as a logic 1. So these things are decided. So every logic has their own noise margin. So generally we try to have a emphasize to have more noise margins. So that we're going to see how noise margins are computed for a CMOS inverter. Then we'll go for the CMOS inverter analysis, and two types of analysis. One is called static behavior, another is called dynamic behavior. Now static behavior means in the rest condition. Static condition means when it is getting 0 what is happening, when it is getting 1 what is happening. So during that state what is happening. So in static behavior we will study about how to compute the noise margins. Then we'll go for the dynamic behavior. Dynamic means which is changing with respect to time. Now in the logic circuitry, in this, like for example inverter, what is changing with time? With time my logic levels are changing, because when we go from 0 to 1, definitely my capacitor is getting charge or discharge. So when my capacitor is charging or discharging, it is depending upon the RC delay. It is nothing but your RC circuit. R is of your transistor. So how much charging time is there, how much discharging time is there. Suppose I designed as inverter, some inverter I have used, and when I give the supply, the charging takes 1 second and discharging takes, let's say, 2 minutes. Then the user will say, what type of logic you have given? I have to wait for 2 minutes to get it discharged, then I will go for the next logic. So this way my system becomes very small, like very slow, like for your mobile phones. In your mobile phones, if such inverters are used, then when you close the application it will take you 2 minutes, then we will start the application, it takes you 2 seconds. Then you say, okay, what type of performance is this one? Opening takes so quickly, and when I close it takes so much time. So this phone is not good. So how to control these timing operations, how to maintain the symmetry? I want when I open any app, it should open quickly, and when I want to close, it should open in the same frequent manner as it is opening. Then I will say, okay, this performance is good because it is symmetry in nature. I can close very quickly, I can open very quickly. So these all things are controlled. How? Due to switching speed. So that switching speed is nothing but the function of delay, and that delay is function of your RC delay, and that RC is nothing but the parasitic capacitances of the associated to the transistor and the resistor, how much resistance is offered by the transistor, which is the function of your dimension of the MOSFETs. So that will be studied under dynamic behaviors. Okay. So now I will stop here.